Hello everybody and welcome back to Mellow Makes. On this episode, I will be creating a winter-themed dinosaur. But not just any winter-themed dinosaur, a Pokémon winter-themed dinosaur. Using one of my favorites, a fossil Pokémon. So we're going to start with some foil. This sheet of foil gets balled up in my hand and then wrapped with another piece of foil. That second piece of foil is then elongated to make its neck and tail. Then we use a smaller piece of foil to add on the head. You can tell that I cut off part of the tail because I realized our dinosaur has a short tail. Now it's time to cover our foil base in clay. Well, he doesn't look bad, but I'm not quite happy with his shape, so we're going to have to do a little bit of surgery. His back isn't quite humpy enough. So I'm going to go ahead and grab one of my slicers, slice down the end of his back, and then add in some more foil and a little bit more clay. Now that he's covered in clay, we're going to go ahead and take a moment to smooth him out. Looking pretty good, but he's going to need some legs to stand on. So let's go ahead and make those out of clay. Wait a second, that's not clay, that's tinfoil. Let me fix that. There we go. Now that he's been properly clayed, we are going to go ahead and start adding some details. So I'm going to start off with his eyes. Can you guess what kind of tool I'm going to use? That's right, the bottom of a paint bottle. Good guess. I press the bottom of the paint bottle in and roll it down. This gives me the top of each eye. The next tool I use is going to be the bottom of this paintbrush. Since the bottom of this paintbrush has a nice tapered edge to it, I can use it to mark out where I want the eyes to swoop, and then use the base of it to kind of press it in and make the eyes come out. Alright, so we have our boy, and our boy is now ready to be baked. So I think I'm going to try out this little thing I learned. It's called shake and bake. Here we go. Well, now that it's baked, we can go ahead and move on to one of the more tedious parts of this project, sanding. I go ahead and grab one of my 220 grit sandpapers and cut off a square, and then just start rubbing that square all over the clay. It's pretty lumpy, so it's going to take a little while for it to sand smooth. Once he's been sanded, you can see where all the lumps and bumps were that we went ahead and removed. It's looking pretty good now. However, I think he's missing something. His gems. To make his gems, I go ahead and add a glob of clay to each of his sides. Then I grab my sharp tool and slice off each side. This leaves a nice straight edge to make the diamond shape. I also use the side of the tool to help press in the edges to make it more defined. Now that his gem is all done, we're going to go ahead and put in some lines for where the belly is white. I had carefully removed the gem prior to this to make sure it didn't get squished in my hand. After carving the lines into the body, this is what we're left with. Next up, I want to add a scarf, so I grab a thin sheet of clay and then cut off a piece and then roll a paintbrush over it to help thin it out. Next up, I grab one of my tools that has an interesting handle texture. Then I roll the handle over the clay. That transfers the texture from the handle onto the clay. After a lot of finagling, I finally found how I wanted it tied around his neck, so I place it around and just carefully tighten it up. I go ahead and cut the ends short and then add a little bit of fraying. He has been baked and is looking really good, though I am a little bit worried about his scarf, but I don't think anything bad could happen to it. After all, everybody who knows me thinks that I'm a very careful person and think things out thoroughly, right? Right, guys? We start our painting process with a nice blue base coat around the entire body. This blue paint needed quite a few layers, but now it's on to the white. after quite a few coats of paint, we now have a nice base. So the next few things to paint are going to be the eyes in the gem and the scarf. So after painting the eyes and looking at him at this direction, he looks a little too derpy. So I go ahead and scrape off that one eye and try again. While the whites of her eyes dry, I'm going to go ahead and touch up some spots that desperately needed it. Well, we all saw that coming. I'm going to go ahead and grab some Craggle and stick it back on there. With his scarf fixed, we're going to move back on over to his eyes and fix them up. While the eyes dry, I'm going to go ahead and add a white base coat to his scarf. While his scarf dries, I go ahead and start working on his eyes. I add a nice dark deep blue to the top and a light blue to the bottom. Then I move back over to his scarf, and I've decided to make the scarf a pink color with a yellow kind of fade in to match his ear fins. And the scarf breaks a second time, so we go ahead and craggle that up and press just a little too hard, so both of them snap off. How fun! So we go ahead and fix break number 3 and 4 and cover the cracks and the tears with a little bit of pink paint. There, now it looks like it was never broken 4 times. With all of the base paint on, I'm gonna go ahead and add the black paint around the eyes and where the lines are that I'd like around the diamond and around the belly. Which means it's now time to move on to the flowy eye fins. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab a sheet of paper and cut out the shape that I want for the eyes. Giving a quick test fit here, I can see that I like the shape, so I'm going to go ahead and start painting. So I give it a light pink, followed by a yellow ombre effect. And while I was handling her, of course I broke the scarf a 5th time. So we just grab that craggle and fix it again. A little bit of paint will go ahead and hide the sins of our past, and we can move on to adding this lighter pink around the rest of the scarf. And then I will also go ahead and add the yellow to the scarf so it matches with the ear fins. With the scarf and fins finished up, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of black paint to give her her smile. And then I'll also add the whites of her eyes to add a little sparkle. And that wraps up Amaura. So now I move on to making her fossil. I'm going to make the fossil out of clay, so I ball it up in my hand and then start using my fingertips and my tools in order to make it look more like a rock. Using a flat sheet of clay, I cut out the shape of her ear fin and then use my tools to refine the shape. And then I realized that the fin shape that I made for this fossil was a little bit too big for the other rock, so I go ahead and just start shaping up another rock. I want the sail portion of the fossil to look like it is embedded into the rock, so I go ahead and remove some of the clay so that way I can fit the other piece of clay into its spot. In order to give this rock its texture, I'm going to go ahead and use tinfoil. With the rock made, I fit the sail into place and then start adding a little bit of texture. I add some cracks to make it look weathered. And there you have it, one sail fossil. The last thing we need to work on is a base, so I go ahead and grab some of my foam and mark out an area on it that I think is about the right size. Then I take my sharp tool and I cut it off. The next step is to mark out where Amaura is going to be sitting, and then taking my sharp tool and cutting off the harsh corners. Once I'm happy with the shape, I go ahead and do a test fit, and I decided that I wanted the sail fossil in the middle, kind of embedded into the snow, so I go ahead and cut out a spot for it as well. Our test fit shows that he fits super well on this base. However, I still want to add a little something, so I'm going to have him make a snow version of himself. So I grab a piece of foil and I cover it with clay and make us a blob. Our blob starts as a piece of clay with no eyes or mouth, so I'm going to go ahead and carve in just a little mouth here and then attach 2 globs of clay as eyes, and I'll texture them to make them look like they're rocks. I also add a blob of clay to each of his sides to give him his gem, but in the future it gets covered up, so it doesn't really need to be there. I add a snake of clay around the base and push the clay up into the blob. So let's go ahead and do our test fit. We need the base, the fossil, the blob, and Amaura. With everything assembled, we can go ahead and start working on the snow. I use spackling paste and snow flocking to make my snow. Before I start on that though, I want to make sure that even if I accidentally leave a few little gaps in the snow, that it won't be super obvious. So everything is going to get a white base coat to start. If you're enjoying my content, please consider liking and subscribing. I do read every single comment, so if there's something that you'd like me to make in the future, just put it down in the comments below and we'll see what we can do about it. Now that the white base coat is done, we can move over to the sail fossil and give it a coat of paint. Now that the sail fossil has its base coat, we're going to go ahead and let it dry a minute, and then we're going to add on a lighter dry brushing. And the sail fossil is done. So now we turn our attention to the base, and I want him to be slightly embedded into the base, so I go ahead and mark out where he is touching, and then I start cutting out the foam from underneath where the body of the blob will be sitting. I go ahead and press him back down into the base and do a little flip test to make sure he's secure. And I think we are ready to move on to the flocking. Now that my thin layer of buttercream frosting has been placed on my sculpture, I can go ahead and grab my snowflake and just dump it all over the entire sculpture. To make sure that the snow sticks, I use my hands to press it down into the goop. After knocking off some of the flocking, this is what we're left with. I go ahead and grab Amaura and place her down into the snow. Then I make sure to add the footprint underneath the lifted arm as well. I made some leaves off camera so that way the Amaura could use them as decorations as her ear fins. One of the last things on our to-do list are to paint the eyes of the little blob sculpture, so I'll go ahead and do that now. And that wraps it up. Let's move on to the glamour shots.